Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we're unpacking something absolutely massive. We're talking about one of the largest administrative overhauls happening anywhere in the world right now. We're taking a close look at India's massive push to modernize its governance through information and communication technology, or ICT. And look, this isn't just about, plugging a few more computers into a wall. It's a fundamental reimagining of how a state actually interacts with its people. So get ready, because we're going to break down exactly how this digital shift is happening, what it looks like on the ground, and why it really matters to you. But before we get into the actual nuts and bolts, we have to start with one truly monumental question. Seriously, how do you modernize a massive bureaucracy? Think about traditional government administration for a second. It's historically famous for being incredibly slow, heavily reliant on physical paperwork, and let's be honest, often super frustrating to navigate. Transforming that kind of deeply entrenched traditional system into a snappy, responsive digital one, that is an incredible challenge. It literally requires a complete systemic reboot. Okay, let's dive into this. When we talk about ICT and governance, we are essentially talking about the fusion of technology directly with administrative processes. It's the active use of digital platforms, networks, and specialized tools to completely modernize public administration. It's basically taking the everyday, routine functions of government and supercharging them with digital capabilities to make them faster, clearer, and far more accessible to the public. So, to understand how this all works in practice, we're going to cover 5 key pillars today. First, the digital governance revolution. Second, e-governance and service delivery. Third, building transparency and accountability. Fourth, powering smart decision-making. And finally, redefining citizen and state ties. Let's get right into it. Kicking things off with Section 1, the digital governance revolution. This is our foundational shift. Historically, traditional bureaucratic systems were rigid, they were slow, and they ran on mountains of paper. But by applying ICT, this whole dynamic is completely transformed. We're moving toward responsive, accountable, and highly participatory frameworks. Instead of a one-way street where the government just dictates to the citizen, technology creates this dynamic loop. The government responds faster, officials are actually held accountable, and citizens can actively participate in the process. It's a real game changer. Which brings us to Section 2, e-governance and service delivery. Let's see how this actually looks for everyday people. Under the massive Digital India initiative, core foundational services have gone fully digital. We're talking about taxation, land records, and public grievance redressal. Just imagine the shift here. Instead of standing in endless lines, holding stacks of physical paper just to file your taxes or prove you own a piece of land, the whole shebang is moved electronically. And this isn't just about convenience, right? Providing these services electronically is a direct strike against corruption, and it helps bridge the digital divide, making sure a streamlined government is accessible to absolutely everyone, no matter where they live. Moving right along to Section 3, building transparency and accountability. Because going digital is great, but keeping the system honest is the other half of the battle. ICT wildly strengthens transparency by handing citizens completely new tools. We're talking online portals, live dashboards, open data platforms. These let ordinary citizens track government performance in real time. This is a massive shift in power. You no longer have to guess if a local government project is working or wonder where the resources are disappearing to. You can literally just log on and see the raw data for yourself. Now, what's really interesting about this slide is how Aadhaar fits into all of this. To make those online platforms work, you have to establish absolute trust. Aadhaar acts as the very bedrock, the foundation of digital identity within this whole framework. By providing a secure, verifiable digital ID, Aadhaar is the prime example of integrating everyday governance with strict accountability. It basically guarantees that when a digital service is delivered, it's going to the exact right person. No fakes, no duplicates. And alongside personal identity, we've got accountability, which brings us to the GSTN, or the Goods and Services Tax Network. This is another completely crucial piece of the accountability puzzle. The GSTN represents economic digitization on a genuinely massive scale. By moving tax networks onto one unified digital platform, it tightens up financial administration and brings a level of clarity to the nation's economy that old-school paper ledgers could literally never achieve. And the final tool in our accountability section here is the online RTI, the right to information. By digitizing RTI applications, the power of transparency is placed directly into your hands. If you want to know exactly why a specific decision was made or how public funds were allocated, you don't need to navigate a maze of dusty offices anymore. You just submit an application online. It's a perfect example of transforming a nice idea into actionable, everyday reality. All right, let's zoom out and shift our perspective up a level to Section 4, Powering Smart Decision Making. At the core of all this infrastructure is data-driven administration. We're moving far beyond just providing basic services. ICT actually enhances the very nature of how decisions are made. Through data-driven policies, predictive analytics, and real-time monitoring, administrators are shifting from being reactive, waiting for a problem to happen, to being proactive. They can spot trends, predict future needs, and monitor situations live as they happen, rather than reading about them in some report 3 weeks later. And this translates into some really cool, highly practical applications, like smart city projects. Think about your common everyday civic issues. For traffic, we now have real-time traffic management. For waste, optimized waste disposal routing. Energy, predictive energy efficiency. The city itself essentially becomes this smart, responsive entity, solving urban problems on the fly by looking at the data and adjusting in real time. It's incredibly efficient. We've arrived at our final section, Section 5, Redefining Citizen and State Ties. Let's bring this all back to the human element. So, the crucial takeaway here is that none of this technology exists in a vacuum. It aligns perfectly with the 4 global principles of good governance: participation, accountability, transparency, and efficiency. Every single dashboard, every digitized land record, and every smart city application we've talked about is ultimately acting as the digital enabler for these 4 steps. In essence, when you put ICT and governance together, you redefine the very relationship between the state and its citizens. By fusing administrative processes with digital platforms, you're creating a public administration that is totally accessible to all, immediately responsive to needs, and fully future-ready to adapt to whatever challenges pop up next. I want to leave you with a final, slightly provocative thought to chew on. When we look at the sheer, mind-boggling scale of modernizing this governance, we really have to ask ourselves, is technology just a tool, or is it a catalyst for democratic deepening? When you as a citizen can monitor performance, access services instantly, and hold your government accountable with the simple click of a button, well, it seems technology might just be the ultimate catalyst for a much stronger democracy. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer today. Keep questioning, keep learning, and I'll catch you next time.